Sorry, I just want to make sure I am recording. Okay, cool. All right, let's talk about some fun stuff for today. We are keeping with our 5 kind of big habits for another week. Most of the time, it takes about 2 weeks to really solidify a habit, so 14 to 21 days. So we kind of did a crash course to begin for the first 5 weeks to kind of give you a really high level overview of stuff and to see kind of what is easy for you and what you need to work on. So now we're going to live here for a little bit. We are going to continue to do our 5-minute habit that may continue to change week to week. We are going to continue to focus on prioritizing protein with our meals. And then when possible, we are trying to eat slow, eat smart carbs, and eat to satisfy, so not trying to stuff our faces most of the time. We're not going to be perfect. Nobody wants to be perfect. That's really boring. So this is all about the 1% better each day or each week, kind of wherever you're at. So this week we're going to talk about that just being comfortable being uncomfortable. So kind of living with discomfort. Just for a little bit as we're learning more about ourselves and what our bodies need to fuel ourselves and meet our goals. All right, so let's talk about discomfort. The story that I read about this was, imagine if you're walking by a burning house. You wouldn't necessarily run inside to grab a photo album if like you didn't know who like lived in that house. Like you would call 911 and kind of hang out and wait to make sure that people show up to deal with the fire. But if you were walking home and it was your house on fire and like your pet was inside, or heaven forbid you had a small child inside, like you would probably sprint into that house to save your child or save your pet. And you might come out with some like burns or smoke inhalation. The discomfort is very subjective. So going into a house where it's not necessarily something urgent or important to you, you'll kind of stay on the outside and stay safe. The discomfort is when you go inside because it's meaningful for you and it's important to you. So this is where we're going to live in this discomfort for a little while as we're changing our kind of, I guess, habits around food. Other things to kind of think about. So when we're feeling hungry or uncomfortable with the meal that we have because it feels plain or boring, we can learn to deal with that. In the right amount, it actually makes us stronger. And if we want to change our experience of life and our habits and meeting our health goals, we are going to live in this little uncomfortable period of time as you're finding kind of like your overall purpose. So as we're talking about being uncomfortable here, I encourage you to think back to your kind of 5 whys. So what was the emotional piece that had you sign up for this nutrition challenge? So go back to that the 5 whys, like your overall goal and reason for doing this, and see if you can live with that discomfort a little bit longer. We talked a little about this last week, and I'm so glad that Kelly is on because we talked about this. It's really hard to waste food. So if we have food in the house that's not meeting our needs and helping us achieve our goals, it's hard to throw stuff away, especially if it's like junk food and you know that you're going to binge it and you know you're going to feel bad afterwards. Like wasting food is really, really hard to do. What's even harder is if you're eating a meal and there's 2 bites left on the plate, even though you're full, you're no longer hungry. We still all have that voice in our head, for most of us probably, that you have to clear your plate. Like you can't leave the table unless you clear your plate. So it's really hard to leave food on your plate or to throw food away that you know is no longer serving your goals. In addition, food, you know, keeps us occupied. So if we are having all of the emotions, food is very soothing. If we're just bored, food is soothing. It keeps us company. So we'll talk about this a little bit at the end. I'm sure you guys have other ideas of how food and eating kind of soothes the discomfort that you feel in your life. And we'll talk a little bit about that. And as soon as we can kind of name and identify something, it makes change a little bit easier. So one of the goals, one of the activities from a week or two ago was noticing if you're hungry or if you are bored. And so once you're able to say, oh, I'm just bored, you can make a more active decision of whether you're going to eat at that moment or whether you need to go do something else to ease that boredom. All right, so the activity for this week is if you find yourself feeling this, I'm going to suggest that you set a timer, maybe 10 minutes, maybe 5 minutes, maybe 15, kind of wherever you're at, and you're just going to sit with it. It's going to feel probably uncomfortable for some of you. And you'll kind of notice on the screen here, we're going to notice and name what that discomfort is as best as you can. If you're an artistic person, which I know a lot of you are, you could even draw a picture of what that looks like to you. So once you're able to kind of identify what you're feeling, then you can make the choice. And that might still be that I need to eat this ice cream right now because that is going to soothe me in this moment and I need it. And that's totally fine. But it's going to be a very active decision after you're kind of sitting with this uncomfortable feeling for a little while. All right, so that's kind of our discomfort thing. I'm going to pause here for a second. Does anyone have questions or comments, or did anything kind of come up when I was talking about that? No? We're feeling that. We understand, like, that makes sense. Cool. Awesome. All right. So now on to some more fun stuff. You guys have probably all heard about calories in, calories out. We've talked about kind of using your hand to portion out your food. And here's the reasons why I like to do the hand sizing for your portions versus what you see in MyFitnessPal or on the labels of food. So in MyFitnessPal and other calorie counters, how much you need, so how many calories they're allotting you in the day, can be off by 20 to 30%, which is a lot. And that's based off of super healthy young people. So as we get older and our bodies change, our gut changes as well, and our activities level has changed. So it's not a super accurate picture. It's a great point to kind of like track your food and kind of have an idea of like the volume that you're eating using MyFitnessPal. I think there's definitely value to it, but the number that they give you, and if you've ever talked to me about MyFitnessPal, I've always kind of suggested that the number that they gave you is much lower than what you actually need. And that's the reason why. And then on the other side, the labels that you see can be up by 20%. So that's could be like up to 100, 200 calories per serving. And the FDA allows for that because of, it would just be the manpower to have it be incredibly precise every single time that a company makes something would be obscene. So they allow for this 20% difference. And then we also absorb calories differently. And then we are all unique butterflies and our gut bacteria is different. So how we absorb and process the calories is going to be slightly different too. So that's why we like the hand sizing and why calories in, calories out might not necessarily be the best strategy all of the time. But what does make big differences in terms of if weight loss is a goal for instead of calorie counting. So we talked about the hand size portions, and it would be nice if there was that magic bullet. If I just worked out 5 hours a day, I would hit my goals, or if I just managed my food. There's a bunch of other things in addition to nutrition and movement So you can kind of see that list here. And there's a bunch of other things that you can focus on instead, which is going to probably have a bigger impact than you think. I know some of you, myself included, are not getting as many non-exercise movements in the day. So just the walking to and from different places, that makes a big difference. Our stress, even if we're feeling chill in this particular moment, is at an all-time high, even if you're not actively feeling stressed right now. So there's a lot of things that we can focus on to help how our body processes food. And then I'm gonna ask this to the group, so you guys can start thinking for yourself or writing down notes. Of our top 5 habits that we're working on, so just the 5-minute habit, the protein, etc. What are you most confident about right now? What do you think might be challenging this upcoming week? So not overall, but starting from right now until next Friday, what do you think is going to be the most challenging? And then what are 1 to 3 things that might help you for this upcoming week? So I'm going to give you guys, I don't know, take like another minute here and jot down some notes or kind of formalize what you're going to say. And we will all share in about 45 seconds or so. So what are you most confident about? What's going to be challenging this upcoming week? And what might you be able to do to help with that?
Can you put the slide up again with the habits? Thank you.
When,
Can you put the questions up again too? Sorry.
questions? Yeah, for sure. I love it.
Like,
Awesome. Excellent. Whoever is going to be watching this video later, they're just going to see me kind of rocking back and forth. All right, if you're still working, continue. I'm going to have Gina share first.
Hi. So and I think this is okay. I've tried to keep the same 5-minute habit the last couple of weeks because I felt like it was really useful, which is making a meal plan at the beginning of the week. So I feel good about that. I feel good about the protein and making sure to have protein with every meal. Right now, I'm feeling sort of like my appetite's off and I'm feeling kind of nauseated. So like even just asking myself this coming week what's going to be hard feels irrelevant in this particular moment. But I think probably the one that I'm like least confident with is like choosing smart carbs because I really like carbs. And so even right now, the only thing that sounds appetizing is like toast or like noodles or something like really bland and carby. But I think what I'm gonna try to do with that is like, if that's what I can eat right now. That's just what I'm going to do. And I'm going to just try to make sure I still do the other things like eating slow and like continuing to plan as much as I can and like stopping when I'm full.
I love it.
Yeah.
Cool. Excellent. That's awesome.
Thanks.
Kate.
I'm also still having like stomach issues. Like today I've had 2 hard-boiled eggs. And like I don't think I'll eat for a while again.
Yeah.
Even though like it's fine, but like nothing sounds good, nothing looks good. So eating a hard-boiled egg slow is kind of hard because you just
Yeah.
eat it.
Yeah.
So I think eating good carbs and not comforty carbs is gonna be hard. But so maybe if I make some and get some on hand, then I'll be able to do it.
Okay.
But like planning in advance is not possible. Sorry, dog walker just got here.
Yeah.
It's not really possible right now.
Yeah. Understood.
Lucy wants to go.
Sarah.
So I'm feeling confident about my habit, which I've been keeping every week, which has been just eating at my dining room table more. So I've been doing more of that, which has been really helpful. And I've actually been listening to just a lot of podcasts in general recently, and actually a lot of them in the past week have like echoed exactly what we just talked about, which is cool. One of them was a guy named Dr. Judd who does all the study on habits and food and all types of things like this, and just the power of like mindfulness and awareness, like when you're eating something, and how if you do that like 10 times, basically it rewires your brain, and then you're like, oh, this thing doesn't actually taste good, and then your brain stops craving it. And so I've been practicing just like more mindfulness and awareness of like, how do I actually feel while I'm eating this? Because normally your brain is somewhere else while you're eating. So that's been really powerful. So I've been feeling good about that. And then challenge has been like sleep, because it's been a kind of hectic 2 weeks and like craving crappy carbs. I'm like on that team. And then like you're stressed, quick energy will be this like really horrible white bread. So getting through this time, another podcast, there's this woman named Ali Shapiro was on, and she was talking about how like when you're first born insecure because you have food, like that's the first sign that you are safe as a human being in the world, is having nutrition. And so that's why she's into food. The best question to ask yourself is, do I feel safe and do I feel secure? And this year in 2020, we don't really feel that way kind of all the time. And so I think that's why it's so top of mind of like all these habits are coming out and coping mechanisms, is because we don't feel safe. And so I've been practicing that to try to help get through all those, is like, do I feel safe? No, what else can I do that's actually going to make me feel safe besides crush like a bag of tortilla chips, which I love to do, because that doesn't really make me feel safe, but it makes my child self feel safe because it's food, right? So it's been kind of fascinating. All these cool podcasts that have been coming into consciousness. So yeah, and I think like I really need to practice more meal planning for like me and my husband plan for dinners, but we don't plan for breakfast and lunch because he's not home during that time, but I am usually, and that's kind of on me. And then it's usually just like garbage, healthy, like so that's something I'm working on.
Nice. Kelly, it looks like you're in a car.
I'm parked though, don't
Okay,
worry.
cool.
Driving with
What about you? What were you feeling confident? What do you feel challenged with?
I've had like mixed results with my 5-minute habit. It's really just drinking a glass of water within 30 minutes of waking up. And sometimes in my head I think about that, like just drinking water in the morning, and then it's like, oh, I've been awake for 2 hours, not had any water. So I changed it to be like within 30 minutes of waking up.
I love that. That's awesome.
And we've been doing a good job of eating to satisfy and giving like smaller portions on our plates, which I think helps some of that, like, like you don't want to leave anything on your plate. So like start with smaller portions, and then if you want more, go back. The replacing carbs, like carbs. replacing carbs that I like with healthier carbs is not something I put any energy into. So I think that will continue just to be something that I need to do, to think about like how I can replace them. And I like the idea of sitting for 10 minutes before you eat something, knowing that you have permission to eat it, but giving yourself space to see if you actually want to eat it, instead of just like reacting. So I think really gonna think about that this week going forward, being like, give yourself 10 minutes, be like, do I really want this? And if I do, fine. But I cut back on all the stuff that doesn't even really taste that good or I want that much. It's just like a reaction. So
Nice.
that's my takeaway for today.
I love that. Kelly also told me of her delicious treat of peanut butter and chocolate chips. And it sounds magical because I have the chocolate chips, but I never thought about the peanut butter chips because I never see them at Fresh Time. So now like there's gonna be a little bit of an adventure because that just sounds inspired for like a snack like that. All right, so it sounds like everyone is like what Sarah kind of mentioned, that the carbs, like it's that feeling of safety and security and everything. So Gina and Kate, since you guys are having upset stomachs, and I've gotten to know Gina over the last couple of years and Kate more recently, my only thing to consider is once you do start to feel better, sit for a little bit and then say like, oh, well, I didn't eat for like 3 days. So now I'm going to order like pizza and mac and cheese and French fries because like I didn't get to eat and I deserve it now.
How do you know?
Like that to me, like, oh, cheeseburger, pizza, maybe. Like a salad, still no.
Yeah. So I'm just saying, do whatever you're gonna do, but you know, sit with it for a little bit, and maybe not like 4 days in a row, maybe just like 1 day. Awesome. Sarah, I'm gonna text you and see if you can send me those podcasts that you sent because that seems like pretty helpful for the group. And then one other thing that I shared in like the shared drive, there's just this infographic and it's, I may have shared this before with some of you. It's the cost of being lean. So like, depending on like this aesthetic that you have in your brain of like what you want to look like, it kind of shows like what it takes to do. And then it's nice to reframe and say, hey, actually, I don't want to do any of that. I'm cool with this. So it's just another little visual that's in the guide that may be helpful at this time. Excellent. Any other questions or comments or anything I can help with? Awesome. You guys are doing great. This was, hey, I'm super pumped for this session today. I'm excited. Thanks for participating. We'll continue to do more of this over the next couple of weeks. All right. Have an awesome day. It was great to see you. Talk soon. Bye.